Men wander the world confused, believing that to speak to a woman, they must interrogate her like a merchant haggling for details. Yet questions reveal uncertainty, and uncertainty is the death of influence. Tonight, we solve the problem that has sabotaged countless men: how to speak to women without asking questions. Presence is the first language of influence, spoken long before any words pass between two people. In the courts of power, the greatest leaders rarely asked questions, because questions imply that one must gather information before acting. A man of presence acts because he already understands the atmosphere, the moment, and himself. And when speaking to women, this principle holds its sharpest significance. Most men rush into conversation armed with a barrage of questions, hoping to impress or uncover shared interests. Yet every question exposes a silent weakness. It reveals that the man is seeking footing, searching for permission to exist within the conversation. Presence removes the need for such approval. A woman does not evaluate a man based on his questions. She evaluates him based on the energy he carries the moment he steps before her. Presence is not noise. It is not bravado or exaggerated confidence. Presence is stillness combined with certainty. It is the knowledge that you do not need to interrogate your surroundings to justify your existence within them. You stand where you stand because you chose to, not because you seek validation. And when a man speaks from this place, every word becomes deliberate. Every sentence becomes infused with intention rather than desperation. Picture yourself in a crowded hall. Most men move anxiously, drifting from conversation to conversation, trying desperately to spark interest by asking anything that comes to mind. What do you do? How old are you? Where are you from? They think these questions build connection, but in truth they build a cage, one made of nervous anticipation, not influence. A woman listens, not to the question itself, but to the uncertainty behind it. She hears the hesitation. She feels the man's attempt to pull something out of her, rather than offer something from himself. This is the mistake of the unprepared, the mistake of those who rely on information instead of presence. A man with presence does not ask who she is. He lets her reveal it when she chooses to. He does not demand detail. He creates an atmosphere where detail naturally emerges. Presence is the art of allowing the other person to come toward you, rather than dragging them into conversation. And so, instead of questions, he uses statements shaped by observation. Not invasive ones, not assumptions designed to manipulate, but elegant insights that show he is awake in the world, aware of himself, and attentive to the subtleties around him. Presence begins the moment you approach. It lies in your posture, the steadiness of your gaze, the calm rhythm of your breathing. Most men speak quickly, afraid of silence. But a Machiavellian understands that silence is not emptiness. It is dominance. He does not rush. He does not fidget. He allows the moment to breathe, because he knows he does not need to chase approval. His presence speaks in the gaps between words. Women feel presence before they decode it. They sense emotional steadiness instantly. They notice when a man is firmly anchored in himself, unshaken by social pressure. When you replace questions with presence-driven statements, you craft a conversation that feels less like an interview and more like a shared moment. You are not prying information from her. You are inviting her into the world you already command, instead of, "Where are you from?" You might simply remark, "You carry yourself like someone who enjoys a bit of mystery." The statement is not a guess. It is an offer. She can accept it, challenge it, or expand upon it. But in every case, she responds because she chooses to, not because you demanded it. Presence is also the ability to notice without interrogating. Asking questions forces the woman to search her memory for answers. But observation lets her experience herself in real time. When you say, "You seem comfortable here," she immediately feels what that means. She doesn't need to think, she only needs to react. Presence is this effortless clarity. It guides the interaction without pulling or pushing. It allows her to relax because she does not feel judged or tested. She simply feels seen. Understand this. Presence is not performance. It is not pretending to be someone you're not. It is the discipline of standing firmly within your own identity, without leaning on others for reassurance. When you approach a woman with presence, your energy says, "I am here because I choose to be, not because I need you to complete the moment." This subtle signal liberates the conversation. It gives her room to express herself. It protects you from appearing needy or uncertain. And this is why presence eliminates the need for constant questioning. A man who is grounded, observant, and calm creates an environment where dialogue grows naturally. She will volunteer information because she feels safe and intrigued, not pressured. Presence makes you memorable long before she knows anything about you. It anchors the interaction in confidence, not curiosity. And the fewer questions you ask, the more control you retain over the rhythm of the moment. In every human interaction, intent is the silent force that shapes the outcome long before words surface. When a man approaches a woman with uncertainty, his energy leaks through every syllable, every hesitant pause, every question that seeks permission to continue. And in that very moment, the conversation shifts out of his hands. For uncertainty signals that he is searching for direction, searching for cues, searching for approval. But a Machiavellian understands that intent must be shown, not hidden behind the veil of timid questioning. The man who shows his intent commands the moment. The man who conceals it loses authority the moment he opens his mouth. Picture the typical interaction most men default to. They approach a woman with scattered thoughts, hoping she will guide the conversation toward safety. "So, what do you like to do? Are you from around here? Do you come here often?" Every question reveals the same confession. "I do not know what I want from this exchange, so I will ask you to define it for me." But intent is clarity, and clarity is rare. A woman is drawn not to the man who asks what the world thinks, but to the man who states what he sees, what he feels, what he intends to create in the moment. The tragedy of modern conversation is that men are afraid to show direction. They fear being rejected, misunderstood, or judged. So they bury their intent beneath a mountain of soft questions, hoping to appear polite or harmless. Yet in doing so, they become forgettable. Intent is the difference between drifting and leading. It is the difference between the man who waits to be chosen and the man who makes his presence felt. A Machiavellian does not hide behind questions because he does not need the world's permission to act. He reveals himself through declarative presence, through confident statements, through the quiet strength of someone who knows what he wants and is unafraid to display it with elegance. A man with intent does not ask, "Can I talk to you?" His very approach already answers the question. He does not ask, "What should we talk about?" because he brings the topic with him. He does not ask, "Do you like this place?" Instead, he says, "This place has a rhythm that suits nights like this." His intent is to engage, to share, to set a tone, not to probe for safety. Women respond to intent because intent is leadership. Not dominance, not force, but direction. When you show intent, you remove the uncertainty from the interaction. She knows why you're there. She knows the direction of your energy. And most importantly, she knows she does not have to carry the conversation. Uncertainty, on the other hand, creates pressure. When a man asks endless questions, the woman must navigate his insecurity and guide him toward connection. She becomes the emotional leader. She becomes the one responsible for steering the moment. This drains her. It shifts the dynamic into something uneven. But when you show intent, the interaction becomes balanced. You're not demanding anything from her. You're offering something of yourself, your perspective, your energy, your narrative. Intent is not aggression. It is not bluntness. It is elegance with purpose. When a man says, "I saw you from across the room and thought you carried yourself with a calm confidence," he is not asking for validation. He is simply stating his truth. She may respond with warmth, curiosity, or even indifference, but she cannot deny the clarity of his intent. The conversation begins from a place of honesty rather than interrogation. And honesty, when spoken with composure, carries immense power. When you show intent, your words become anchored. Instead of chasing her reactions, you guide the experience. Instead of seeking approval, you offer insight. Instead of asking, "What do?" you remark, "You seem like someone who works with people." You have that ease in your presence. Whether you are right or wrong is irrelevant. What matters is that your statement reveals your world view. It shows that you are attentive, confident, and unafraid to express yourself. It shows that you are willing to lead the interaction without controlling it. Intent also shapes tone. A man with intent speaks in a way that suggests he has already considered the value of the moment. He speaks with measured pacing, not rushed. He maintains eye contact without intimidation. He allows silence to settle naturally. Every choice he makes communicates that he is not lost within the interaction. He is guiding it. A woman feels safe when a man shows intention, not because he is forceful, but because he is grounded. Intent steadies the atmosphere. Uncertainty shakes it. Understand that showing intent does not mean revealing your entire purpose. It simply means you do not hide behind questions to fill the void. You allow your presence and your statements to communicate that you are here with direction, even if that direction is as simple as enjoying a moment of conversation with her. Most men fear that intent will make them appear too forward. In truth, concealed intent makes them appear weak. Women sense hidden motives. They sense when a man is unsure of himself. But when a man stands before her with deliberate calm, expressing himself without apology, he becomes someone she can trust to carry the interaction without burdening her with uncertainty. And so, intent becomes the invisible architecture of connection. Not a script, not a strategy, but a posture of clarity. A man who shows intent does not wait for the world to define him. He defines himself through his words, through his tone, through the steady rhythm of someone who knows where he stands and speaks from that place with unwavering ease in every social exchange. Someone sets the frame, the invisible lens through which the conversation is interpreted. It is not the loudest voice, nor the most aggressive presence, but the one who defines the tone, the direction, and the emotional atmosphere of the moment. When a man fails to set the frame, he becomes a passenger in his own interaction, reacting instead of leading. And nowhere is this more evident than in the way most men speak to women. They enter the conversation seeking approval, waiting for cues, hoping the woman will provide the path. But a Machiavellian knows that the one who controls the frame controls the experience. A frame is not a trick, it is a world view. It is the subtle declaration. This is how I interpret this moment. People naturally fall into the strongest frame because humans crave certainty. A woman does not want to lead the emotional landscape of every interaction. She does not want to be questioned endlessly and forced to build the conversation piece by piece. She wants to step into a space that is already shaped, already warm, already steady. When you lead the interaction through framing, you are saying without saying, "You do not need to carry this moment. I already understand its tone." Most men think leading the interaction means directing the woman, controlling her choices, or dominating the moment. That is not leadership. That is insecurity wearing armor. True Machiavellian framing is effortless. Instead of demanding control, you create an environment where control is naturally deferred to you, because your presence, your calm, and your direction feel more stable than the alternative. You do not impose the frame. You become the frame. Imagine two men approach a woman. The first asks questions to figure out who she is. What do you do for fun? Are you out with friends? Do you like this place? Every question places the burden on her shoulders. She must gather information and present it to him. She must interpret the moment for him because he has brought no frame of his own. This is emotional labor disguised as curiosity. And though she may answer politely, she feels the subtle drain of carrying the interaction. The second man approaches differently. He does not wait for her to define the atmosphere. He defines it himself with a simple, confident frame. Instead of asking where she's from, he says, "You carry yourself like someone who grew up around art or culture." Whether the statement is accurate does not matter. What matters is that he has framed her energy through his interpretation. She reacts. She responds. She steps into the world he is building. He has created the narrative. She decides how to join it. This is the power of framing. You offer a lens, and she chooses her place inside it. The interaction becomes collaborative rather than interrogative. Instead of questions demanding answers, your statements invite a shared moment. When you frame the interaction, you give her something to respond to emotionally, not just intellectually. Humans don't bond through facts. They bond through feelings. A question asks for a fact. A frame invites a feeling. Leading with a frame also removes tension because the conversation is no longer fragmented. You weave a coherent atmosphere. There's something relaxed about tonight. You seem like someone who appreciates these quieter moments. Without asking a single question, you have shaped the mood, established the vibe, and given her a place within it. She senses your leadership not through force, but through coherence. You make the moment feel seamless. A strong frame does not trap her. It frees her. Women often carry the burden of social coordination, keeping conversations alive, smoothing out awkward pauses, maintaining emotional comfort. When you set the frame, you relieve her of that burden. She feels at ease because you have given the moment its structure. Your presence becomes the guide. Framing is also perception. A Machiavellian knows that people respond not to reality, but to their interpretation of reality. If you frame yourself as someone relaxed, she experiences you as relaxed. If you frame the interaction as light and enjoyable, she feels it that way. If you frame the moment as two people crossing paths with intention, she senses that purpose. The frame becomes the truth because you declared it with conviction. When you lead through framing, you also shorten the distance between two people. Instead of tiptoeing through safe topics, you create immediate closeness. You have a thoughtful way of looking at people. I can see it. Within seconds, the interaction feels more intimate because you have framed it as such. Not through pressure, but through clarity. Most importantly, framing stops you from chasing her validation. When you ask questions, you invite judgment. When you set the frame, you invite participation. You become the source of direction, and she becomes the one who chooses how deeply to engage. This dynamic is natural, comfortable, and deeply attractive. Not because it manipulates her, but because it offers her emotional stability. A Machiavellian does not wait for the world to define him. He does not wait for others to provide the energy. He steps into a moment and offers the frame through which that moment will be felt. He sets the tone, not because he seeks control, but because he knows people gravitate toward the one who carries clarity in a world full of hesitation. Curiosity is the lifeblood of connection, yet most men wield it like a blunt weapon. They interrogate instead of intrigue, question instead of observe, probe instead of perceive, and in doing so, they exhaust the very woman they wish to draw closer. But a Machiavellian understands that curiosity, when executed with refinement, does not come through questions at all. It comes through insight, through reading the room, through reading her cues, through reading the energy between two people without demanding explanations. Curiosity, without interrogation, is the art of making a woman feel understood without making her feel inspected. To understand this skill, imagine the common mistake men make. They rely on direct questions because they believe conversation cannot form without them. What's your job? What are your hobbies? Do you come here often? These questions are not inherently wrong, but they drain the moment of mystery. They turn connection into a checklist. They transform an interaction that could have been alive and dynamic into something procedural and predictable. A woman feels instantly that she is being categorized, not felt, not perceived, categorized. Curiosity without interrogation changes that entire dynamic. It shifts the focus from extracting information to sharing perception. Instead of asking her what she does for work, you might say, "You have that calm confidence that people who deal with others every day often carry. The moment you speak, she feels recognized. She feels seen in a way that goes beyond surface-level conversation. Even if your observation is imperfect, the intention behind it pulls her in. You are not demanding details. You are offering reflections. You are giving her something to respond to, something to shape, something to clarify. And in that act, she becomes an active participant rather than a respondent to a questionnaire. Curiosity in this form is not about gathering data. It's about expressing interest through interpretation. Humans bond through shared understanding, not through exchanging resumes. A Machiavellian knows that what captivates a woman is not the volume of information you gather, but the depth of awareness you bring. If you can show her that you notice the small things, the way she holds her glass, the way she glances around the room, the subtle confidence in her posture, you demonstrate a form of curiosity that feels intimate instead of invasive. This approach also removes pressure from her. Questions create a dynamic where she must supply answers. She must perform. She must think. But insights create a dynamic where she can simply respond emotionally. When you say, "You seem like someone who values your independence," she does not need to search her memory for a correct response. She already knows how that statement makes her feel. She can agree, challenge, modify, or laugh at it. All pathways lead to deeper connection because the moment is organic, not mechanical. Curiosity without interrogation is also a test, not a test of her, but a test of yourself. It asks whether you are paying attention or simply waiting for your next opportunity to talk. It forces you to observe the real person in front of you rather than relying on a script. Most men fear silence, so they fill it with questions. But a man who observes silently for a moment before offering a thoughtful remark communicates confidence without saying a word. His curiosity is not frantic. It is deliberate, and deliberate curiosity is magnetic. Women feel the difference instantly. When a man floods them with questions, They sense tension beneath the surface, a kind of desperation hidden behind polite inquiry. But when a man speaks from observation, she feels a calm undercurrent of assurance. It says, "I am present in this moment. I am paying attention. I am not trying to extract something from you. I am simply noticing." This form of curiosity feels safe. It feels mature. It feels rare. Curiosity without interrogation also creates a rhythm in conversation that is far more engaging than the typical back and forth of question and answer. It transforms the exchange into a dance of interpretations. Instead of "What do you like to do on weekends?" you might remark, "You seem like the type of person who enjoys escaping the noise on weekends." She can correct you, expand on it, tease you about it, or ask you the same in return. Whatever path she chooses, she does so with ease because your curiosity came in the form of insight rather than demand. This style of communication often opens deeper layers of interaction more quickly. Because when a woman feels seen, truly seen, she naturally reveals more of herself. She does this not because you asked, but because you made the moment feel like an invitation rather than an interview. Curiosity becomes a bridge rather than a spotlight. She steps across it willingly because she senses your interest is genuine, not transactional. And perhaps the greatest advantage of curiosity without interrogation is that it allows you to remain composed. Men who fire questions lose control of the conversation's tone. They depend on her answers to shape the moment. But when you observe first and speak second, you shape the moment yourself. You become the guide, not through dominance, but through understanding. The conversation becomes anchored in your awareness rather than her explanations. Curiosity, when used with subtlety, is one of the most powerful tools a man can possess. Not curiosity that demands, but curiosity that reveals. Not curiosity that pressures, but curiosity that invites. Not curiosity that interrogates, but curiosity that connects. And so, traveler, we return to where all influence begins, not with tricks, not with tactics, but with the mastery of self. Presence over questions, intent over uncertainty, framing over drifting, curiosity over interrogation. These are not mere techniques for speaking to women. They are principles for navigating human connection with clarity and confidence. Most men search desperately for the perfect line, the perfect question, the perfect approach, yet overlook the truth that has guided statesmen and leaders for centuries. People are drawn not to words, but to the force behind them. When you step into an interaction grounded, observant, intentional, and perceptive, you do more than converse. You create an atmosphere she can feel. You offer a moment shaped by your steadiness. A moment where she does not need to guide or interpret or rescue the conversation. You relieve her of the weight men unknowingly place on her through their uncertainty. In return, she responds not out of obligation, but out of genuine intrigue. The art is simple, though not easy. Speak less from fear, more from awareness. Replace the need to gather information with the ability to interpret what stands before you. Lead the interaction not through force, but through direction. Allow curiosity to flow from insight rather than inquiry. And most importantly, understand that the goal is not to win her over. It is to reveal the strongest, calmest, most intentional version of yourself.